Good morning, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, July 31st. It's the dog days of summer here. Thought I would just walk around my backyard. These flax lilies have really grown. They're basically covering the first pane of glass. Used to be able to see my pots in the kitchen from here. My Nepenthes pitcher plant is doing really well. It's got a bunch of pitchers, and they are huge, as you can see. I noticed they have little differences between them. This pitcher is smooth. This particular pitcher, I don't know if you can see it, it has little hairs along the lip. Almost seems like there are two different types of pitchers. Got my fountains going today. It's about 10 o'clock. It's not too hot yet. We've been blessed with getting rain every day, which cools it down from the high 90s to low 90s or high 80s. Crepe myrtle's still doing well. Unfortunately, crepe myrtles are messy. They're constantly losing blossoms, so it kind of looks like snow on the ground here. Caladiums are still doing fine. I need to water a little bit. Some of the things are wilting. This pot has done really well. I'm pleased with the combination of the begonias and the spiky thing. I'll think of the name of it later. It's not a Dracaena. It's called something else. Pitcher plant is still doing well. My Sarracenia. Still getting roses. You can see I let them grow tall, and after they bloom I cut them back. Usually I take the roses inside. Unfortunately, that one I didn't get yesterday when it unfurled, and it just got a little too burned during the day. My plumeria is doing well. Oh, Mimi wants to come out. Come outside, Mimi. It's got fully leafed out now. This is not a plumeria bloom. It's just one that fell off of my angel's trumpet. My poor golden chalice vine was attacked by a grasshopper. Unfortunately, these leaves will stay with it till they fall off in the fall. But it is what it is. And you can see here by Miss Mimi is a hosta that's in bloom. It bloomed earlier in the spring and it's blooming again now. Some hostas have scent. This one does not. Pelargonium still blooming nicely. My pineapple sage here has gotten kind of spindly. With this rain every day, it's really been taking a toll on some of the plants. Oh, I'm going to save these chrysanthemums. I cut them back, and they appear to be just green in the pots, which is all you can really expect this time of the year. So I'm going to keep them watered and let them live there. My purple spiderwort is doing really well. Of course, it's hard to kill that. My butterfly gingers are opening. I need to stake them up. There's a bee working the inside of one of the flowers. They're very fragrant. They're kind of like a gardenia with a little hint of lemon. And there's another type of ginger lily with an orange cone. I can't really get at it so you can see it really well, but that's the other blossom. They get tall. Let's see, of note here, there's not really any. Oh, I was going to say about these butterfly gingers. They have a particular attribute, I guess is what you would say. They grow linearly. So if you plant one of these butterfly gingers in a particular place, by next year it will have moved about 4 to 6 inches forward, and the next year after that another 4 to 6 inches forward. The tuber still stays underground, but the growing tip just keeps moving. So eventually, I mean, if you leave it, untouched for 5 to 10 years, it's in a totally different spot from where you planted it. So what I do is about every 4 or 5 years, right now I need to straighten these gingers up because they're crowding out my boxwoods. But what I'll do is dig them all up, break them apart, throw the old ginger roots out. Could eat it. I don't know if it's edible ginger, but I'm not going to take the chance with my health. So in any event, and that I put them together in a spot, but I put them in all directions, making sure that they'll grow in each direction, and knowing full well that it's going to become a circle eventually because they're all going to grow out from where they've been planted. Little change has occurred here. You may recall that I had planted vinca under this sundial, and all of the rain that we've been having, vinca likes heat, but it doesn't necessarily like the rain. And what happened is about half of them died out. And so yesterday I went and yanked all the vincas out, and I got some Mexican heather. I'm not crazy about Mexican heather, however, it was on sale at Lowe's for half price, so $2 a pot is not bad. They're going to die back when frost hits them, but they should do well through September, possibly October. But I know Mexican heather is something that does like the heat, so I figured it would be something that would grow. These pots are doing well. I need to trim back this camellia a little bit just to touch it up to keep its shape. My plumbago is in bloom over here. Plumbago is a nice plant, but it is a little floppy, so be warned, it spreads about and flops on everything. This leafy thing, I don't want to call it a caladium. I don't know exactly what it is yet. Probably like an elephant ears. That was one that I had dug up that had come on my side of the fence from my neighbor. And you may recall in one of my previous videos I talked about just yanking it up and planting it there. Well, with all the rains we've had, it's needless to say caught and doing well. Not too much going on here. Along the bottom of the fence is a potato vine. I've left it on the ground. I used to put trellises up against this fence for the potato vine, but you can see all the holes in the leaves. It turns out lily beetles love potato vines, and so they come from miles around to eat it, so I figured leave it at the ground and maybe they won't see it. Angel's trumpet here has grown up nicely. Hasn't started blooming yet, but since it's reached the sun, it will. That is a peach colored. Oh, there's Miss Mimi saying hi. She doesn't come out much in the summer, but right now it's not too bad out here. I saw a hummingbird yesterday, so I put hummingbird feeder solution in. I do have the tamest wasps in town because lacking honeybirds, hummingbirds, the wasps like to drink that nectar. But they're very friendly wasps. They're small ones, so they don't bother me when I weed around them, so I just let them be. Banana trees have gotten huge. I'd say they're probably about 20 foot tall now. Of course, the first storm that's going to come will probably knock them back, but I can enjoy them in the meantime. Cycads are doing well. Over here, I don't see any flower spikes yet. I can tell I don't need to water because that's one of the first plants, my Ligularia. There's a smaller one I planted here. I need to cut some of the lilies and things out to give it more sun. it will get huge like this, but they'll send out flower spikes late in the fall. But they're one of the first plants to tell you they need watering because they'll droop when they need watering. My poor aspidistras got burned in the sun. I cleaned them out earlier this year and they were all green, but just the heat of the summer sun has fried them. My caladiums are doing well, however. Oh, here's the male cycad. All this growth in the middle is new. There's some caladiums. Fountain is going for a change. I need to run it more often. Of course, I'm not out that much in the summer. I have it on a timer. I got these timers from Walmart for Christmas lights. So I have my fountains plugged into a timer, not a timer, a remote control unit. So at the press of a button, they turn on. This is doing well in the heat of the summer. The second batch of fruit from my jelly palm is ripening. I don't know if you can see it up there. It's falling on the ground. My orchids didn't do really well. Of course, when I was sick with COVID, I wasn't watering for 2 weeks, so I just took what comes naturally in terms of rain. Of course, now it's raining just about every day. Here's my white angel's trumpet. I'm trying to get a view of my cutting that I took earlier this year. It's still doing okay. It's not dying. It hasn't grown much, but it's not dying. Of course, the Phasahedra tips haven't really grown all that much either, so par for the course, I guess. This palm is not doing real well. I planted that, or I should say I had it planted there earlier this year. It came from the front yard where I planted the cassia. And in any event, it's done pitifully under here. I guess it's too shady. That is a Mediterranean fan palm. Under my big Phoenix canariensis. It's doing well. I have my Fatsias here on either side. David's still liking the shade. Mosquitoes are getting a little rough right now. I'm in shorts and I'm getting eaten up. There's Miss Mimi saying hi. Knockout roses blooming. Again, you wish you could smell the scent. Very lemony. This, in the center here, is new. I planted that earlier this spring from cuttings from either side, and it's growing out nicely. I did notice my little orange here is doing well. Here's my Satsumas. And this tree, I noticed yesterday, it's not only got green fruit, but it's also got some blossoms. So it's a little mixed up. Can't think of the name of that fruit off the top of my head. The small orange things, I will eventually. But you eat the entire fruit, husk and all. I cut them in half to get the seeds out because they do have seeds. Or as the English call them, pips. There's some more of my butterfly gingers. Daylilies have bloomed and are doing nicely. I've got some yellow daisies just starting to bloom in the back there. I don't know if you can see them. My roses on a stick are still doing well. I have to admit they're not as nice as I'd like them to be. Of course, I only paid $5 a piece at the end of season a couple of years ago. I'd like them to be a nice bushy ball at the top, but they never quite made it. Kumquats. That's the name of that little orange that I couldn't think of before. Kumquats. This is doing well in here. Those are my lavenders. I used to have them on my front porch, and even though it's in shade, they're doing well over here. And my house leeks, or hens and chicks, are doing well. In the back corner, you can see the growth on my, and I don't know if you can actually see it. Let me get a little closer. I've got about a foot of new growth on my snowball viburnums back there. And of course you can see my Nandinas. That's the height I wanted them to be. So they've grown up to where I want them to be, and we'll leave them. That's a bottle brush. It bloomed earlier in the year. You can see the huge spider web. I don't know if you can make it out glistening in the sunshine there. I leave it because I'm hoping they'll catch mosquitoes and other things. There's Miss Mimi wondering what's going on. Blueberry bushes have sent up a few spikes. They're doing nicely. My Aucuba, it seems to like it here. I had Aucuba on the property when I first came here, and I didn't care for it because everyone in the world had it, and I wanted to grow unusual things. Well, I found out why everyone in the world has it. It's so easy to grow, and it does well in our hot summers. It does well in the heat. These Aucubas are older, but I cut them back to match with the other two I just showed you. I kind of like to grow in clusters, matching on either side as best I can, at least with heights. I was watching some gardening shows this week, as I had prone to do, and I've been gardening here for 30 years now. I calculated it a couple days ago, and I couldn't for the life of me remember what was the first plant that I planted in my property. And I've narrowed it down to one of these three palms. I had the Phoenix canariensis planted because it was too big for me, but at the time it had no stalk. It was on the ground. It looked like about a 6-foot fern. Then I planted this double palm here, windmill palm. And then the last palm that I planted was the next palm that I planted was this, you can see it between the windmill palm, the jelly palm. So those were the first, one of those three was the first thing that I planted in my backyard. But my backyard has evolved a lot through the years because I used to have 2 huge oak trees back here and another big oak tree in the front yard. And they have since been removed. And these palms that were at one time maybe about 4 or 5 foot tall have just grown huge in the 30 years. So things have changed a lot back here. Actually, this area with the archway of camellias, I like to watch some gardening shows and they tell you what they're planning to do. And I'll tell you what I've done. Where that archway of camellias is, in the center used to be a large southern magnolia when I bought the property. And southern magnolias are sloppy trees because they lose their leaves and you have to rake them up because they're very leathery. So that started me clearing out the base underneath that tree. And then I got tired. I kept the tree for about 5 years and it didn't bloom once. Finally it bloomed, but I'd had enough, so I cut it down. I was young enough then, I cut it down. And I had planted, I used to have an archway, a Gothic arch with a seat right where the statue is in the middle of the 2 camellias. And on either side of it, I had a large clay pot with these white crepe myrtles in it. And Hurricane Katrina came, and I lost a lot of limbs from the big oak trees, and it crushed my arbor with the seat and knocked over the potted crepe myrtles. So I took the potted crepe myrtles and moved them to the front by the street. And unbeknownst to me, because they were in about a 4-foot tall pot, they had rooted, the roots came through the bottom of the pot. And when I got rid of the pots, guess what? Crepe myrtles sprung up from the roots. And I got like 3 or 4 crepe myrtles from that original crepe myrtle in the pot. They just grew from the roots left in the ground. And that's one of them over there. But after Katrina, what I wound up doing is when I decided to put in these 2 camellias, and of course I couldn't plant them closer because of the roots of the original tree that was there, the magnolia. So I planted them as close to each other as I could, wanting to make a hedge to separate the deck from over here. And in any event, the rest is history, because they grew into a hedge. And then I noticed eventually that, hey, it kind of makes a little nook. And so I started training the little nook, and every year I bring it up a little bit taller. And now I can actually walk through it. And it's a nice archway of camellias. Someday I'd like to have, when I redo the deck, I want to move my stairs to there so that the entry to the backyard will be, from the deck, will be through that archway of camellias. But that's enough for me for today, and I see Miss Mimi's had enough out for the day. She's getting warm and probably bitten up by mosquitoes. So, have a good day.